Any comments on the minutes? Changes? Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
A second.
So Maggie should take over for Allison for the minutes. She's have to fine tune them.
Yeah. Rachel, do we have board communication? Okay, could be a good quick one. We have no public comments. Do we have anybody? Oh, we have John.
Is there anyone on Zoom who'd like to make a public comment? Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Discussion items. Let's see. I just want to do a little bit of an introduction. Rachel and I have been talking that the new year is a great time to kind of take a half a step back and sort of look at the big picture and regroup and reprioritize. And so, you know, some things, a lot happened this year. We didn't get the 2 grants, so Rachel will talk more about that. So like, what can we do to give ourselves a better chance next time? Because really that's one of our best opportunities for funding our projects. It's come up in council that maybe it's time for the townships to ante up a little bit more money. So JB's made it really clear that he would like to find out, you know, what percentage of visitors to the parks are township people versus city people. So it'd be good to get to the bottom of that.
Let's start with A. The community garden is our first agenda item, and unfortunately Farming for a Future wasn't able to attend our meeting, so they will be at our February meeting instead.
This is
I
not
never
an
said-
agenda item. This
Oh,
is a
sorry,
little-
okay,
It's
okay.
just a little introduction.
Okay.
Yep. So we've got, you know, a number of big projects swirling around. So they're on the capital improvements project list that Rachel handed out. Did we get that one too?
Capital improvement?
Yes.
Oh, I need a copy. Oh, sorry.
I think these are yours.
Oh, I have it. Never mind. Sorry. Thank you.
So things we're thinking about getting to the bottom of some of these things is doing a survey again. And then maybe doing what we did at Marina Park where we have like a little yard sign with a QR code. So anyways, all of this will be discussed at the January meeting. So just if you guys have a chance to look this over in the next month, then we can be prepared to talk about it at the next meeting.
Can I add something about the survey?
Yes.
No.
We're actually gonna discuss it.
Okay.
For D.
Okay.
So again, sorry, I wasn't
Okay.
trying to cut you off, but it is an agenda item to
Okay.
talk about the survey
Okay.
for the townships.
All right.
Okay, Rachel, the community garden guy couldn't make it last minute.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Dale's got, so Farming for a Future runs the local farmers market here in town with Hannah Bianchi. I'm sure most of us have attended it. They run the community garden in Petoskey. That's not saying that our community garden will be apples to their community garden. But they have experience with funding and kind of getting the process started. So they're gonna come and just talk about how they got the Petoskey Community Garden started, you know, what fundraising they did, what grants they got for it, and what we could possibly have ours look like, and what we don't want it to look like. We gave them a couple options on locations we've looked at putting one. One that the Parks Board has discussed in the past is Jean Jardine Park here. That's gonna take a lot of public input before that were to happen. There is another piece of property up the bluff when they come and talk. I'll bring it up on the screen later. But it's where our water well house is, and it's right behind. What's that cross street? It's on Pepper Street.
Yeah, Sergeant Street, right?
Yeah,
So
there's a little loop
Pepper.
turnaround, there's no
Yeah.
restroom, but it would be a really great spot for a community garden. There would be available parking, there's a water source. So if you wanted something a little more in a neighborhood, that would be another option. So, and at this point, it's just in the discussion phases of what,
Mhm.
it is something on our capital improvement projects list, so where we would like to put it.
Great. And I think this also gets back to setting priorities, like there was a 2.1 on the list, where we have a lot of ones that maybe we should spend time on before we get to them. Yep. Okay. Anything else on that? All righty. Do you want to give us an update then on the DNR grants?
Yes, so we unfortunately did not get, that's in the director's report, but the Michigan DNR grants for the skate park or, Kiwanis Park. Kiwanis Park, was partially because it's part of the composting through DNR, so it's not all recreation property. So if we were to go for that for the future, lesson learned is we would have to break off that parcel and make it two. Whether we go for it again or not, that would be something we would do. And then the skate park, landscaping, we're still gonna landscape it, we can't leave it dirt and mud. So we'll simply just tone it down, we're still gonna do grass. We'll do a buffer along M119 in some way, whether that's a fence or bushes, something, it needs to be something semi-substantial, at least a 4-foot fence probably, if you were to do fencing. And then we'll still cement off the building there. So there will still be landscaping of what we need to do. And that might actually work out better in our favor because we can see how the users are gonna use the skate park. We have no idea what paths they're gonna create through that middle space and where they're gonna park. And, you know, we still have some things to figure out through the spring and summer, because we saw how busy it was in November. So we can imagine what it's gonna look like in June. So,
Is the landscaping covered?
yeah, the city will cover it. Yeah.
Do we have a budget on that?
We're looking to keep it under $25,000. So, and we'll look for donations, which I'm currently working on right now.
Okay.
But something will happen there, so.
Does that include the trees?
And the tree board,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The trees are, I believe, already in budget left over from the 119 project. Rachel, I'm sorry, I think I was working off a previous agenda.
that's okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
And did you get any feedback as to why we didn't get the grants? Besides the
For the
composting?
skate park grant, I can send you the scoring, like the specific scoring. I sent it to Dana, she requested it. We scored a 145. The ones that were funded were 180 to 200. Petoskey applied for one, they got a 165. We were right in the middle there. Some of it was medium household income. Some of it wasn't our only park in town, some of the ones that were funded. And some of it was, you know, simply the need, you know, the grant writing. So yeah, there are a bunch of different reasons. And I spoke to Vanessa Warren about it, because I was kind of bummed out. We got a 145, and she said some years 145s are granted. She said she's seen that happen multiple times, so it's a really, you know, competitive grant. So after speaking to her, and I saw Petoskey sort of felt a little better about our score. I was like, okay, like, so we did a lot of it, right?
They show you exactly the way
Yeah.
you got points and didn't get points, so I think that could be really helpful the next time we go for a grant, like
Yeah.
to see where we need to beef up whatever it is we're giving them.
So,
Do you know who got a grant? Do you know any?
yeah, they have the list of
It's on the
awards
website.
out,
It's on the
yeah, it's on the
website, okay.
DNR website.
Okay.
And the scoring's all public.
Mhm.
Yeah, even the ones that weren't granted, that's all public, so you can see where everyone, you know, you can see like the lowest is like 55, so that makes it feel better, like, a little bit, but.
Does
Yeah.
everybody want a copy of the scoring sheets? Just
please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I have a copy.
Can I bring up something else about the skate park? I've been being asked a lot about liability. Are we covered under the city umbrella?
Yeah.
Because I grew up with a lot of lawyers, and I know tough area, including my son-in-law. And every board I've been on has had a liability insurance, and we're actually all liable if something should be filed.
We're an advisory board, so it's separate, so it's through the city.
through the
So,
city.
yeah, so it can be skate at your own risk, all the liability insurance, yep, is through the city of Harbor.
Okay, as long as we're covered.
Yes, we're covered.
All right, anything else on that then? Okay.
The next thing, I don't know if we'll do the same one, is the boardwalk fundraising
Right,
update.
yep, so, it was canceled, I think we had 16 people sign up, so I think it could have been like a number of different things that went into it, right? So, this is getting back to regrouping and maybe seeing what priorities are, and maybe in the community, you know, that Eastern arm is not a priority. So, there may be people that still would be willing to fund it anyways, which would be great, but, I think it would be good to know that information.
Ultimately, I believe I've spoken with Victor, it'll go back to council.
Mhm.
And they can choose to do a survey to the community on whether the community is interested in doing the east portion. But there's no. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of reasons the fundraiser may have not kicked off, but we also don't want to put efforts if they're not wanted or needed in a priority. So we're gonna put that back to council and see where they fall and how they feel about the east section, because we have other things we need to fundraise for at the end of the day. And putting efforts towards something that isn't needed, and I don't wanna say not wanted, because there are people that want it, and there are people that wanna donate. But we have to make sure it's a priority.
Have you had any other feedback from anybody since our last meeting?
About the fundraiser?
Honestly, the general
About the
consensus in town
boardwalk?
is mixed to me. Some people want it because they used it for their walks, and some people say, I never really thought about not having the east side, but now that we have the west side, I don't see a point. So, honestly, both comments I get quite a bit.
But the comments I got were about cost,
Yeah,
and that we're also gonna have to fund the trailway, which is, I think, about $800,000.
yeah. And I think that's what it comes down to. And the east portion is gonna be more expensive than the west portion due to getting equipment in there. And it's not gonna be able to be concrete, it'll have to be the helical piles,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, John said getting the cement blocks out of there would be
Right.
extremely difficult.
And I just don't wanna put efforts into something, we could be putting efforts into landscaping the skate park or the wheelway or Kiwanis or other projects, so. We'll do what the community wants and what council decides.
As far as the wheelway, do we know if we're gonna get any other shared funds from other places? Emma County, Petoskey, the Trails Council, anything like that?
So we're working, there is a Trails Council member, on the Wheelway Committee. We haven't gotten that far with funding, so.
Because is that total cost only our cost, or is it the composite?
A
cost for
majority of that
everybody?
cost is the tunnel.
Okay.
To bring it down past, and I don't have it broken up, but to bring it down past Bay Bluffs and down in 119
Mhm.
is a very small portion of the 800.
Sure.
A bulk of that is reimagining that tunnel space.
And then switchbacks to get
Mhm.
lights down there.
So most of it'll fall on the city. Hopefully partnering with Harbor Inc. will be helpful, and the Trails Council will be helpful. But unfortunately, it's kind of the same situation that Petoskey's in, you know, where they're a trailer
Oh, yeah.
township there, where it,
Major Dale there.
yeah, takes time. It's a big project.
This does bring up kind of an interesting philosophical question, though. If we were thinking about a survey where we could put it out to the community, like, do you value more like on the bike trail or the boardwalk or a nice skating rink at Kiwanis? You know, is it even up to us to ask, or has it already been decided by, I guess, the city that we're definitely doing it and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks?
I think if we bring it back to council for the boardwalk, they'll be open to discussing whether efforts, I mean, Jamie, I don't know if you can, obviously you can't speak for council, but I feel like that's worth a discussion.
Mhm.
Saying, do we need to do the east side? I mean, that's not our decision, but I think it would be a discussion at least.
Yeah, and I
I'd
guess
be
extending that to the wheelway though, you know, a lot of the feedback I've gotten is that's a whole lot of money. Is that really where we should be spending the money? So I mean, is there any point in doing a survey about community interest if it's already decided that we're definitely doing it? Or is it interesting to know what the community thinks before we
I
start?
wouldn't say we're
Get too far.
definitely doing anything. CIP projects change yearly.
Feel like getting a survey of what the community wants and then taking it back to council and seeing where council stands and everything would be the best way to figure out the priorities and where you should be spending your energy.
And that also brings up a bigger question, and that is how far out do we want to, so that's why.
So this is-
If we're gonna ask for more money,
Mhm.
then we need to understand what their input really is. And not just city people. You know, I think that could have some influence on how much money they want to share. And then if we might need to add 2 people to our board, representing Little Traverse and West Traverse like we do with Harbor Commission.
And
As
do we
well, so
want
the bigger
to,
picture.
at that point, consider doing a Parks Authority, which, a lot of municipalities do, like Northville Township, the city and the township, banded together, even though 90% of the parks were in the township. They had a cost sharing arrangement.
Can you explain why it is that the money only goes to those three parks? Like, where can I learn more about how that's broken up and what the actual dollar signs are, population percentage of?
Send that all to you from the past 5 years, I think we have.
I
I
think that'd be
honestly
more- I mean,
don't
that would be a
know
good discussion for
how
us to
it
have, too.
started. It was like an agreement back, I mean, it goes back to it hasn't been updated in the 80s, I don't think.
And Nick,
And is it like set in stone or is that something that can be revisited?
Yeah, so that's,
Okay.
so yeah, so
Because
when
some
we get
have
started, we're like
stipulations
kind of
on-
like bouncing around, but like when we get to D, that's what that's actually
Have the
about.
breaks. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, we're like getting a little off topic, so back to the
Answer.
boardwalk.
that's the answer to Sarah's question.
Yeah.
Nick had explained it to me and I
Yeah.
have all the numbers and it was done a long time ago.
Yeah,
It wasn't really clear on how the
How the
percentages were
formula
figured out
was determined.
to
yeah.
do it, and it's totally outdated. I think the total dollars that come in are pretty small compared to the cost of our operations.
yeah, I don't even know if there's, I'm sure there is a physical agreement, but I've never
They pay us every year.
seen one. Yeah, they pay us every year, but I don't know if there's an actual form of how it is, you know, and yeah, contract or anything, I'm not sure. But as far as the boardwalk, the plan would be to either the Parks Board or the city do, meaning City Victor, do a survey as to what we do moving forward, for the east portion.
I think I will say that this past weekend was very quiet in town, at least from my perspective. So that could have been a part of it, but I also know people that like ran and bought tickets and were told like, hey, it's almost sold out, like you need to go get your tickets. And then it was canceled and they were like, hey, why is this canceled? And it was, obviously nobody was signed up. And so not to lie to people. I don't know who told them that. I don't know if it was somebody from
Yeah.
the pier or if it was just somebody in the community, but they were told it's almost sold out. You better go get your tickets. So they were disappointed.
And unfortunately, you have to let the restaurant know. It's not like we could let the pier know on Wednesday or Thursday, we were canceling, that's not
Right.
appropriate. So we were held to that week before canceling, which I think was the right move.
What do you guys think about doing a survey where we have all of the big projects kind of in the same context? Rather than one for the boardwalk and one for other parts?
Yeah, that would be good.
Simplify it.
That'd be good,
Yes.
because, first of all, with regard to the silent auction, everybody that donated, it was, 20 different people, companies that donated money for the silent auction. They all said, everybody has said, just keep it in whatever the next one is. So that part is good. But,
Thank you for all that effort and having to unravel it.
But, I think that if you look at the wheelway extension proposal. And last month we listened to a gentleman, Gary, what's his last name?
Stewart.
Yeah. To put in a large cement turnaround down there, I've had a couple of residents say, we don't want more cement down there. And then if you look at what the Parks and the Trail Board has, they recommend coming into Harbor Springs, turn on Beach Street. And a sign on Beach Street and 119 to say this is the way into downtown Harbor Springs would be a lot less than $785,000. So I think, you need to look at what they're proposing. And every time people want to pave green space, there's a lot of pushback. And that, Shea Overlook Park is green space, and that's what he talked about last month. So,
let's work on a survey, and it would be things like, where are you from? But then also, here are like the top 5 projects that are being considered in the city. Please rank them and add any comments you have. Or I don't know.
Tell us who
What you
you
can work on it, we can.
Yeah,
And
I'm
tell us
also,
if you use those parks, I think would be the question. Are you using these parks?
When was
Which
the
parks
last
do you
survey
use?
done? I remember
What?
reading it. When was the last survey done?
what, like?
There was a
specific
park
for
survey.
parks, when we did our
2020?
parks plan in
20.
well, no, we did a short one for our parks plan, we had to. The last full ones for 2020 when we did their master plan. We will want to bring Victor on for this survey only because it does apply to projects that one, council started.
Mhm.
And two, the Wheelway Committee's been there a long time. Well before I started, the Parks Board was created. So some of these projects, I don't mind putting a survey out, but some of the information necessarily isn't for the Parks Board. It's for city council as well. I don't want all the, I don't wanna say work, but everything to fall on the Parks Board
Yes.
necessarily. I don't think that's appropriate.
It does serve a number of our purposes.
No,
though.
yeah, we'll still do it, but it should be in partnership with,
The city.
yeah.
Agreed. Anything else on the boardwalk fundraiser? So that's just sort of on hold right now. And then Rachel, you were gonna check on, what we do with money that we've already brought in for fundraising for the other
So we
side.
had 3 donations towards the east side. And again, I'm kind of waiting for council to decide what, like, do we reimburse them if we decide not to do it? Do we hold on? Like, it's almost tax season. We have to send out thank you letters for them. That's why I'm saying there are a lot of pieces to this that the Parks Board we can't make decisions on.
Or do we add it to the West Side Fund, which might help pay for the plaque
But
or?
then if we add it to the west side, some fund of those names go on the plaque.
Can we find out though, because
Yeah, because I heard,
I for one would.
Yeah.
I'd like to buy a step if there's, still time, but,
but the thing is with that, is like I closed that program months ago and I've already told people no. So if I say yes now, then they're gonna wonder why there's a new
what do you
name on
mean you
there.
tell people no?
Well, they wanted to donate, but we had closed fundraising for the plaque. I said you can donate, but it's closed to put your name on it. Cause we had closed for the west side, we had started for the east side, cause we had to cut like a line to then start that's where it came, and now if we don't do the east side, now it's kinda. Like it got a little, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't mind doing a survey, but there is an overlap. Of responsibility for it, and I don't want it to fully fall on the Parks Board.
I
Do we
feel
have
like
any
if-
costs left for a West Side? I'm sorry.
No, we
Okay,
didn't
so
fundraise
everything's
the full
paid.
amount for the
Okay.
west side, just short.
I would say if we do go forward with doing the other side, like there should probably be another plaque at some point. And so like that wouldn't be, it's not a no, just as of right now, it's no. But if
Or
we
or do
do
we
it
hold off on plaque and just do it
for the whole thing,
for the whole thing once we determine if we're gonna do the whole thing?
right? But I mean, we could do the whole thing 5, 10 years from now, and we aren't gonna
I
hold.
think
on.
people want their recognition of. I think that's important. I think we told them, well, I don't say we, we had stated that we had something ordered as a proof out in the lobby. Like, I mean, that's happening in the spring. We already have it voted and ready to go. What else was I gonna say with that? And the other fact is, it's great to say like, we'll hold those donations for 5, 10 years, but let's say ultimately 6 months from now, we decide not to do the east side. We send out those thank you letters, people have done their like, that kind of creates an issue for people, not an issue maybe for someone who donated $100, but it creates an issue for someone who's donated $5,000 or more dollars.
Especially out of
That's, people
retirement,
don't wanna be stuck in that, I donated $5,000, where's it going?
especially if they pulled it out of retirement fund.
Right, yeah, it's
That's
not.
an issue.
It's not a good thing to have in the balance.
Yeah.
Maybe you should call the donors and ask them. If they want you to hold the money or if they want it refunded, and then if
Yeah.
they're gonna move forward, they could then issue another check.
Yeah, Nick and
Or
I
you
spoke
could
about
do
this
it
morning,
like on
we're
a
gonna be
pledge
linked to
basis.
them.
That's what council had talked about was
Okay.
Yeah,
possibly just taking pledges and not collecting the money until the plan was for sure.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's okay too. And like I said, we're not talking a lot of donors, but eventually we will be, it's gonna become kind of a paperwork headache.
Well, and it goes both ways with the boardwalk and the wheelway.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, exactly, you're holding
neither of
on to
them are
them,
super set
Right.
in stone.
and that's a good reason to do the survey, to make sure we're not starting fundraising for things that are gonna take much too long to get, you know, do we do pledge forms then for the wheelway instead to
Yeah.
make it easier, so.
Okay, enough on the boardwalk. Parks Corner, any ideas?
Yes. I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
When I was on the tree board, I put together a spreadsheet of what articles we had put in the Harbor Light, so we could kind of keep track. And it would be really helpful to have that right now,
Okay.
because, you know, which parts we've already done, when they were published in the Harbor Light, that might help us decide where we want to go next. I think some of it's seasonal, because I think like something like Cosequat or the beach, like Soul Street, whatever, more seasonal. But if we got something that's less seasonal now, like Shea Park, for example. You know,
What have you done? We did Zorn. You wrote that article.
Yeah, I
I just
just
put
warned.
Kiwanis in a couple weeks ago.
Kiwanis, right.
If
Did
that
you-
doesn't go in this Wednesday, I'll email him.
What was the one you and I just did?
Kiwanis.
Were you doing skate park or boardwalk
Well,
too?
we put Kiwanis in instead of the skate park, because I think we're gonna save the skate park for the ribbon cutting and
Okay,
align that with that.
we could lay out the year, that would be kind of helpful, which parks.
And we
when.
can change it around, but at least we'll have something.
Yeah. So if we only had two, it's not a big spreadsheet to start with.
That's okay though, gotta start somewhere.
It's helpful to have that.
Yeah,
Did you have an idea?
I didn't realize it had changed. I thought it was, there was at one point we talked about the skate park and then at one point we talked about the boardwalk. So I was gonna suggest Kiwanis because it's about to be winter time and it could have, you know, advertise for the event that we have coming up, but didn't realize that was one. It's just submitted.
I was waiting for it to go in. So
Could
this
also be like general recreation topics like trends and recreation.
So this would be February we're talking about.
When are you gonna decide on the ribbon cutting for our skate park?
What do you mean? Like deciding on a
The
date?
I mean, we got lots of time.
February, March, yeah, we'll start, once we get landscaping more under control.
I have a lot of people asking me.
Yeah, June, I tell people June.
That's what I've
It's
been
pretty a
doing.
blanket statement I've been giving out.
Well, Shea Park,
So
you know,
we
with the
just-
new locomotive potentially coming in, maybe it's a little early to do that right now.
Sometime next year though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Jean Jardine Park with the Deer Park might be one
I
for
was
winter.
thinking for February. If we had all our event dates in line for the following year, 'cause Easter egg hunt, that's on my director's report, is like, Easter is March, I think.
Is it,
So I think the Easter egg hunt, if we do it the Saturday before, is March
it's
31st.
30th, March 30th.
Yeah, 30th.
They're probably gonna be.
I thought maybe we could do something about our programming or. But then we won't have one in March, then we'll have one in April, and that would be the skate park one.
It's not a park, but have you thought about doing something about like all the hiking trails that are like Glen Drive area?
That's a great idea.
Like a lot of people don't know that those even exist.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Some of those are conservancy trails.
Right.
Mhm.
But
So
it could be
they're not really our
snowshoeing.
trails per
City,
se.
city resources though.
But they're still in the city.
Yeah, they're still, in- well,
I
some,
mean,
there's
like I
some
said,
of
it's not a
them
park, but it's still in the city.
some are West Traverse Township too. Kind of outside the city, some of those. Yeah.
We have the Kiwanis ones, you have. And no one's to say that the Parks Corner can't go outside. The city. Are they good for snowshoeing or anything? I'm trying to think of like a winter activity when it's February and there's snow.
Kind of short for that, but
But
it
yeah,
might be okay. for some.
So I'm getting confused. The one that you and I just worked on should be in tomorrow.
Yeah, it should be.
Tomorrow, okay.
December.
And that was about sledding, right?
Correct, yeah.
So that's, that'll be December. And then January will be, tree.
Yeah.
Then February will be back to us.
In March will be tree.
Yeah. So maybe February should be programming and Easter egg hunt and.
Would you see at some point covering some of the smaller parks or having an article that might cover some of the smaller parks all at once? Or, I mean, I think Jean Jardine and the Deer Park are pretty visible, but people really don't know what people use them for. It's this beautiful grassy area that doesn't get maybe recognized enough. I don't know. I never go to it.
There's so many parks, yeah, we're in the middle of February.
It's tough because in the winter you don't really use the parks as much.
And it doesn't have to be about it. It can be about parks in general. I think we forget that. It could be about just the importance of parks. Like, it doesn't have to be about a specific park property. We could talk about the importance of parks,
Getting outside.
how it helps your,
Yeah.
you know, your real estate value if you live near a park, how it, you know, like health and wellness. Like, there are a lot of other ways we can take it besides trying to pick a park every month. Eventually, we will run out of parks.
Yes.
So.
So do that plus the programming and
Yeah.
like, this is what Parks Board does and maybe get people to show up to meetings to give their input.
When you wrote the Kiwanis article, did you talk about the hiking trails there?
Mhm.
Good.
And just
Because they're snowshoeable. I mean, they're like a mile around here.
So we just want to do like a blanket importance of parks and our programming and,
Do you want to do that for February?
yeah, really nice.
It's a good idea.
Who would like to write it? Anybody want to give it a shot?
Everybody looks down at you. Oh,
Yeah.
I can help you, Rachel.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sarah's gonna do it?
yeah.
I'm gonna help Rachel do it. I'm gonna rely on her to.
Yeah.
Help get the way.
Okay, so parks and then, you know, programming too. Did we decide?
Yeah,
Okay, and then March, and then we're back to April.
I just said skate park for
April
April.
should be skate park.
Yeah,
Ribbon cutting.
right,
in
right.
June.
Do you want to do that one, Dick? Pardon? Your baby, the skate park article?
No,
We'll work on it together.
all right.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
You'll be fine. So then May is trees, so then, June. Maybe that's a good time to talk about, trails, like where you can go hiking right in town.
Another idea is Cosequat. That place is so busy in the springtime
Come on.
for all the baseball, t-ball,
Why don't we do that, let's do Coasquat in June.
Fine, perfect. And
Anybody,
July, and then-
anybody want to do, or we can worry about that down the road. Okay, then, July, August.
Do we need to cover some beaches other than Soren Park? Like
You could do
Marina
Zoll.
Park, Zoll Street?
There's a lot of history to Zoll, like
There's
how
a
the
lot of
city
history
acquired
there.
it and what used to
Right.
happen there, views first what happened
Right.
now there.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a good idea.
September, October.
We can also
Trails.
kind of talk to Shade Park at the
I
same
think
time.
October is trails.
Cool. Great. Trails, okay. Then November, then back to December.
Back to Kiwanis probably. I think a whole year later for our event. We might have an update too on,
But let's
Thanks,
just,
so we'll
this is
wait.
probably good enough because there's gonna be stuff that's gonna happen during the year.
Things are
Yeah.
gonna come.
Things are gonna come up.
I think another good one to feature though at some point, if we can this year, would be Ford Park.
that's good, yeah, that's a good one.
There's a lot of history there too. There's a lot of history with the state of Michigan there too, that a lot of people don't realize.
And so there may be more to discuss at that point. Rachel and I met with Bill McCullough about you know, helping with this
Right.
revisioning of the park, so.
Yeah, I'm on that committee with Bill too. There's a lot of there's because of the fact that the state paid for a lot of that, they have a lot of influence over what's gonna happen there. And actually have to take the lead on it for the most part. So it's gonna be a while for that to be.
I think we just
negotiated, I
do
think.
Ford Park as a blanket and say it's on a capital improvement project list for the future. They're far away, I think, from doing anything too substantial there. But by then they might have something for kayaks to come through.
Yeah.
They could have
Tie
that.
that into
Yeah.
why parks are important and
And once the
Program.
community garden location is set,
that would be a priority to do an article on that.
Yeah.
So we can have just a list of things that aren't assigned to a month, like.
Yeah, if we
community
wanna change it out.
gardens. Yep, Ford Park.
No little parks. Don't want to neglect the little parks.
That's the first.
Pickleball would be popular. All right. Good, we all set on that then, I think? Okay, we got a plan. Maybe you could send out the schedule, Rachel, when you do your little update. Not your little update, your excellent update. Okay, and then the last item is the big picture. So I think, do we want to get too much into it, or do we want to like just start thinking about it for discussion in January?
Yeah, so it's more a discussion in January, but what Dana was explaining is one of the goals for the spring, summer season is to survey, and more specifically to survey to see where our park patrons are coming from. So attached, you'll see the CIP list, so that's when we talk about, you know, should be fundraising for the boardwalk, should be fundraising for the wheelway. And obviously, we're giving it to you now, if you have a month to look over it with the holidays and everything. And then what we picture is then looking at our smaller projects. So this is personally what I picture, and we can discuss this at the January meeting, but Dan and I have discussed doing yard signs at each park, even the more passive ones, like Jean Jardine, you know, things like that, and just having a very simple 5 questions. And that's why we're asking for the January meeting, is what do we want those 5 questions to be? We want them to be simple, because you want it to be just something someone can click and be like, are you a visitor? Are you a, you know, a township, like click a township you're from, we'll have to put the specific township, so we're looking for cost sharing. Specifically, you know, what would you like to see in this park? Would you not like, and some of them are gonna have to be guided. We're not open-ending, we're not gonna leave open-ended questions where
People
someone
have to
can.
type a bunch of.
Yeah,
stuff
or
in.
someone can say, you know, I wanna see a pool in Jean Jardine Park, like, obviously, we're not doing that. We have to leave them, you know, within our project list. Yeah, so, a perfect example would be the skate park. The skate park, until we see how it's gonna be used this summer, we're gonna have 1,000 questions, even to ourselves, like, what do we do for landscaping? What do we do for rules? Do we need staff here? And that leads me to the budget. So this is the 2024 approved budget for parks. You can see it's really small print, but we did leave a line item for skate park staff. It is there, just in case we do need someone up there for the summer. If it is really busy and like people want rentals or someone wants something, we can put someone up there for a few hours a day during peak hours. And then but for an example of a skate park, for the questions, it could be, where are you from? What do you really like about the new skate park? What would you change about the new skate park? What would you add? You know, so then we can kind of guide off the users, and I'd like that in every park would be ideal. And again, go.
There
from
could be
there.
some common questions on each one, like cleanliness,
Right.
for example, or parking,
Yeah.
or
So ideally, everyone would bring a few questions, you know, 3 or 5, and we'll pool them together and then create the survey. And we'd like to get them out by Memorial Day and leave them out all summer long. Just get some yard signs, QR codes, and leave them out all summer long, and that should give plenty of time for input.
so we're gonna go for all the parks, like Cosequad but maybe not the little teeny tiny ones.
Probably not I mean, we could do Shea Scenic though. I mean, it's argued that people walk by there all the time, and we could talk about that as well, which parks we want to do and which ones we don't want to do. Ideally, I'd like to do as many as we possibly can. But go ahead.
So is the goal to guide programming,
Yes.
activities, that kind of stuff here, or is the goal to get data on usage to bring back to the townships? So that's what, those
So
are
we'll
both.
have to have a question that has like Little Traverse, West Traverse, where are you from, and guide them and make sure that's very specific. So they can't just say visitor, you know,
I think another important thing is deciding when to put them out
Yeah.
and for how long do we leave them out?
And to say if other, so they can type in. where
Right,
they're
and then leave in other. So when I say like guiding them with programming, that's when I say like, we're not gonna say, what would you like to see in this park? And then leave it completely open-ended. I mean, there could be another option. Well, some of the things we've talked about, like shuffleboard, 'cause those are things that people haven't thought about. And kind of guide them in that way and then leave a space for other, 'cause people will add whatever they want to add.
The only thing about doing it,
Reactions.
Yeah.
doing it like, you probably think QR codes or whatever at the parks themselves, is that you do leave out a population of people that maybe haven't thought about using them, but could be. And so it kind of skews it a little bit as opposed to, if we could involve the townships in a survey directly and
I
have,
think we're
JB
looking to
and
do
his-
both, right?
are we gonna do both? Yeah,
so,
that'd be good, because maybe they would be willing to, send a next email or mail they sent out to their to their residents.
That's a great
To
idea.
include the survey link to it, and the JB and.
Like, what are your top park, and all,
Yeah.
it could be very simple, if we were setting out to township, like mass to them, it could be as simple as rank your most used parks, and then list some of ours on there, and they can, then one of the questions we could ask, I know we wanna keep it short and to the point, is how often use the park, like, are you coming to the beach 3 times a week, or are you coming to the beach twice a year? Cause that makes a difference, the goal is to think of it how a township board would. We can't just come and say, well, they're using our parks. Of course they're using our parks. They're ultimately going to ask, well, how often are they using our parks? Are they staying for the day? So those are things we're gonna have to, if we're gonna do it, we have to do it and get enough information to take to the township. My fear is if we don't get everything we need in the first run through the summer, that we won't get the cost sharing we're looking for.
So the methodology last time that you did this, when you had the yard signs out, how many responses did you have?
I don't think we did, well, Marina Park
Marina
did.
Park, yeah.
Were there a lot of responses? I'm just trying to.
There were a lot. yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to think of like how often people see a QR code and like go up to it and interact with it. It's not like everyone's standing around waiting for something to happen. When you're at a park, you're using the park, right?
Some
So
of it might have to be volunteers going off with like.
That's what I was
physical
gonna ask, if
survey.
that's
Like,
something
that's how
that-
aggressive it may have to be this summer, like, we can do the QR codes, but some of it's gonna have to be like myself and, other volunteers going up and just
where are you from?
asking, yes, just asking the questions.
We have clipboards of our.
There's
of our-
clearly technology that is available that we can talk about in January.
Yeah.
That will tell you who used the beach in July and August, and where are they from? These kinds of,
Is this like, though, they're, linking into iPhones?
yes,
Rachel and I talked about this. Do you think that would be well received in Harbor Springs?
well, I think it depends upon how we structure it.
You're talking about locations, what are you talking about?
Well, there is technology out there that can tell
Text
you
people,
who's using
Mhm.
the beach,
right?
during a certain period of time, and where do they live?
Yeah, so Bob Buckner,
Airplane.
yeah,
Tag.
so Bob Buckner, who was appointed to the ZBA board, that's what he does for a living, is basically surveys, like marketing, things like that. So he's gonna come speak likely at our January meeting, just to give it out as an option, because there are so many options out there for surveying.
Yes.
Maybe we don't do it, maybe we do. But it's gonna have to be fairly aggressive this summer to get cost sharing. Because townships, I don't think it's going to be an easy quest.
Did we ask them?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
how did that go and?
not wonderful. So they understand that their users use the park, but they wanna see substantial
They want to see
data.
data.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is fair. I mean, I would too if I was a township supervisor, so.
Well, then there's the interesting twist of like, I remember a sledding event where I don't think there was one kid from Harbor Springs or one kid from the townships. They were from Petoskey or out of town. So who pays for that? I guess we do. I don't know.
Right, and the survey, and it could be that, we might get the survey back and it turns out a lot of them don't come West Traverse, and that cost sharing goes down. That's a risk we would have to take, Personally, I believe a lot of it's probably Little Traverse Township,
But
but
Traverse is, halfway through Glen
Yeah.
Drive too, so there's a lot of us. Ann Street, where I live, north of Lake, and the
Yeah.
west side of Ann Street
So-
is West Traverse, and the right side is Harbor Springs, so.
considering it wasn't done since the 1980s, it's fair to say it'll be fairly
Have you
different.
ever thought of doing like a newsletter through email and trying to get people to sign up for a newsletter? And then you would have another source of like who's at the park, who wants to know what's going on at the park. Like
We
this,
tag on to Victor's newsletter, right,
right?
sends it out monthly. We don't have a parks newsletter.
Is that good with township? No problem.
It'll be helpful. to have
I
a-
thought they
for it.
sign up, but like,
Yeah.
if it was advertised at parks, like if you wanna know what's going on in the parks world.
Any ideas, Sophia?
Not necessarily as of now. In regards to this.
There's also such a thing as sampling, like, maybe your gang could say, one day a week at different times, go to the beach and just like with a clipboard and like, hey, where are you from?
Oh, yes, I'm the volunteers person. If you guys need volunteers, I have volunteers.
We have a lot.
There you go.
I have all the volunteers, all the child labor in Harbor, you got it.
Awesome.
That's important.
Well, it sounds like we're probably talking about two different types of surveys, and it's really helpful to have Bob talk to us.
But yeah, so something to look forward to the January meeting, if we can look through the implementation matrix, the CIPs, and then come with some questions of what we want and what we think the townships will want, because that's the most important thing we really need is we have to think of what the townships will want. We'll do another survey in 4 years and we have to do our parks plan, because you have to do a survey within the year you do your parks plan. So we can do another massive survey then with more questions, less questions, whatever we want to do. But this one should be more geared towards who's using our park.
And are there other parks that we would want them to cost share, like Cosequat, like all the T-ball games?
Yeah, that's why I want to
Those
put them in all the
township.
parks, because there's some they
Yeah.
don't cost share into.
Right.
Like the skate park, that's very specific, it's a skate park, but if we could say that's really the entirety of the park, Cosequat Park. It'd be different. Another one I thought of was Marina Park even now. I mean, there are a lot of park spaces, we could say,
A lot of people come in
programs alone.
town for events.
You know, when we do the Easter egg hunt, when we do Fall Fest, when we do. Aquinas
And the
Ferry
dog
Cup.
beach.
Right, yeah, there are a lot of parks
lot of-
that weren't the same as they were back in the 80s, they weren't utilized.
And then how do you assess cost sharing on our event programs? Our programming? Like, I meant of the Easter egg kids, how many were township kids?
Right,
And there's the music in the park too. So our next meeting will be January 16th, is that right?
I believe so. And even like if you look at the school enrollment, very few of the kids in the school live in the city.
I think it's 4%.
So
Yeah.
kind of do that, like who's attending the events
Correct.
that is representative.
And then just for the highlighting on the project matrix, the yellow is what we're looking to do this upcoming year. And the green is what we completed this past year. So the Parks Corner could be argued that that's the marketing education with the newspaper, and then the park brochure was completed.
We had a good year.
The green is completely.
Or ongoing rather, but we started it and have a system in place for them.
Right.
Behind the survey, are you going to have a registration at the skate park?
For the survey,
No, after the survey, a registration book for people to sign, because I know there are people coming from all over the Blakely and Northport and, for people to sign,
We
so we
will
have an
when-
idea of where people are coming from.
when the building's open.
Yeah.
We will, that's gonna be a little bit of time. We gotta rearrange that building to let the restrooms be open without staff there in the spring. So, but yeah, then we could. Yeah.
Okay,
Before we get to director's report, I'm wondering if in the future, like an agenda item, if we could talk a little bit more about like the recreation side of parks and recreation. We spend a lot of time talking about parks, like the physical spaces, and we have some recreation events that, you know, between Fall Fest but these are like one-off or one-time events and activities. And I guess, you know, when I grew up, or where I grew up, Parks and Recreation did a lot of activities for people. Whether it be, you know, you partner with the school and you have a tennis camp for younger kids, you know, something along those lines. I know once kids hit usually third, fourth grade, there's opportunities for, you know, recreation through other organizations, but there's not a ton available in our area for really young kids through that third grade area. My daughter just participated in a Petoskey Parks and Rec program that was fabulous. And they had, it was a basketball, volleyball program. And our basketball, our volleyball, high school kids were the ones that were doing the coaching, all put on by Parks and Rec with help of volunteers from the coaches that were there. You know, there's only a couple kids from Harbor that were participating in that. I just wonder if that would be something that we can explore in the future.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Good idea.
For their stuff, are they volunteers or are they staff?
They were high school athletes,
Right,
which
okay.
was really cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the teams then got some funds and it was relatively inexpensive. I mean, it was coaches who already know what they're doing that were part of it. So I haven't dug into those details. I'm just thinking like recently the K-2 soccer, they didn't have enough volunteers to run it. So that's just gone. Like that didn't that didn't happen in the spring. And I know we've got T-ball, that's great. They've got their in but I just feel like we're missing opportunities to engage community members and to build community and like look like this is a great place for families. I'm just hopeful that could be a discussion item at some point in the future.
There used to be a
So-
community skills program here
Just
that
speak up.
offered a lot of different classes, including yoga and aerobics classes through community schools.
So to speak a little on that, I love it because I'm from downstate and they did that all the time. Couple of things I'll have to keep in mind when we do have that discussion is finding volunteers because we don't have it in our budget for staff to do those things. We'd have to go to council and do a budget change.
Unless we got more money from the townships.
That's the point of it, yeah. Pull that in.
It's
for
gonna
those
pull
programs.
people
Wouldn't
in
use
for
it,
that.
though.
Yeah.
So that's the whole selling
So they have
point.
a survey question.
Mhm.
Yeah, how we're interested.
Second part of that is Petoskey uses a rec service program for people to pay and to register online. I only know because I've done it, which is great. It's an amazing system. It's expensive. So when we say like registering and like doing that, like we're talking about myself
Rachel.
doing it. Which is, I'm not like saying no, I'm just saying those are things we have to discuss, like when we discuss of adding them. Those things do cost money.
What facilities would we use, like? would
I'm
we-
sure the schools would partner with us, I would think they would be open to that, and I know the high school volunteers, we never have issues on.
We do open gyms often, and I know many National Honor Society members and Key Club members as student high school athletes that would be willing to run open gyms for the younger kids if it would be oriented in that direction. I'm a spring athlete for track and field, and we, like, there are field days and stuff that we could do, and the Reynolds field is free. so.
Right. And that's the thing, like even partnering with, you know,
Yeah.
organizations that are already here and established, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But if Parks and Rec were to partner to do a family fun night where, you know, there's the basketball courts are open and the pool is open and, you know, there's, I don't know.
Yeah,
one
we have a
house or
lot.
Something.
I know the
Um,
pool does open hours, I don't know what they are.
Right, but that's the point though, is like
Yeah.
partnering to be able
Right.
to connect, so that way you're building these programs, you're making connections, you might be drawing on different groups of people to participate in those activities.
Would
If
you
there's.
charge for those?
Yeah, if you charge my family $10 for open pool night and open gym, I would be there.
We
That's
do a lot of that.
That's a
For
easy.
baseball and basketball, tennis,
Mhm.
they put on camps for the kids, they were all charged though, and
Yeah.
and we used a lot of the kids to help out and a lot of the coaches.
Petoskey's isn't that expensive, I think for an 8-week basketball camp, it's like $60. if that, $40.
I couldn't pay a babysitter that to
Yeah,
care for
it's
my
not.
kid, let alone my kid being engaged and got a free t-shirt and got to
Yeah.
look up to these high schoolers.
If
So,
the coaches of our teams are always looking for ways to fundraise for their team. So if you brought it up to the Harbor Springs athletic coaches or the athletic director and it trickled down to the individual coaches, they'd probably make all of their players do this.
As
And
part of
that
their team
money
commitment.
would
benefit
be,
the program.
and it'd benefit the program. So
Good idea.
that could be.
Our baseball, program went all the way from second graders up to eighth graders.
It would be cool too if, like, there was a program where people could like sponsor people and like donate money and say, if it's $10 per kid or per family, somebody wants to donate $100 and that sponsors 10 kids that might not be able to attend if they didn't have a sponsor.
Yep, that's like,
We can put that on the February agenda.
Mhm.
We should talk about it sooner rather than later.
It's good.
That's really a good idea, Sarah.
We charge a lot more than $10 off.
But I mean, if that's, the point is you wanna bring people together, right? And, if you can do that for a, you know, if you can offer it at a lower cost, then you're gonna get buy-in for some of these other programs and activities too.
And
great brainstorming. Did you want to do director's report?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so some of this we've already kind of been over, so I'm gonna pick and choose. January 8th, the new BDA director, Becky Goodman, begins, so I will no longer be interim BDA director. The proof for the donation recognition for the boardwalk is in the lobby. We're giving individuals till January 2nd, so around that week, to get any, or just spelling corrections back, very specific. The Harbor Commission is talking about revamping Ford Park. Parks will stay along for that ride. They're not near discussing it necessarily yet or any final design, but as it moves forward, we'll work with them. We didn't receive the MDNR grants, we went over that. The skate park rule signs have come in, will be posted. That takes care of the liability, so skate at your own risk. And then we have a memorial bench, ordered for Indian Town Park, thanks to, Michael Thorson and his family in memory of their, son Alex. And, we have ordered the Zorn Park playground equipment. That came out of the 2023 budget, so thank you to the advocacy group for that donation. And I have the images below. What it'll look like. So that'll all be delivered and installed in the spring, and Cox will do the burial wall work, and he'll do that late this winter, likely even before the spring. So he'll start working on that and get a quote to us. The sledding and s'more dates, if that's just the January dates, 13th and the 27th, 4 to 6. And the Easter egg hunt date, I guess my only question is, do we want to do it March 31st?
31st is Easter.
Or the 30th,
The
sorry,
30th,
Easter is the 31st. We usually do it that Saturday before.
The school spring break is March 22nd through April 1st. Just throwing that out to,
Can you say that again, Sarah? What was that?
yeah, March 22nd to April 1st. I'm not saying you don't do it that weekend,
Yeah.
just prepare for lower turnout.
No, I can't, I think our banner says the Saturday before Easter. So we're,
Yeah,
When is bowling on Main Street?
April 1st.
yeah.
It's always April 1st.
Is it during the week? I don't remember it being on weekends.
That's what I thought too.
I know it started off as an April Fool's.
I'm not sure.
April 6th, maybe?
I
think it's
always
over.
during spring.
Spring break, yeah.
Oh, and
So it might be the same day.
Or in the chamber website.
I'll reach out to the chamber. It's usually later in the afternoon, isn't it? Or no?
Boring, it's boring.
I've never gone to it, so
I think it's like noon to 2
I was
or
gonna
something.
say, yeah.
it's too cold for me.
And then for the Zorn Park, the equipment's going in the sand,
Going on turf.
on turf, but in the sand,
Yeah,
on the,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah, in the far,
yes.
yeah,
It'll be right off the restrooms there
okay,
on that,
yeah.
the women's restroom, sorry.
Right, okay.
So do you know what you want to do for the Easter egg hunt? Do you want to do it the day before Easter? I mean, there are people that don't go away for spring break. Not too many, but
I feel like maybe we should look into like when other people are doing theirs. Good idea before we set a
I
date.
can't imagine they're gonna do it too much earlier, considering Easter's so early this year. I mean, you're playing with snow and March up here.
But always in the
So I would
past.
think that it's gonna be that weekend and
Yeah.
maybe the weekend
In
before.
the past, there's been, several other Easter egg hunts on the Saturday before Easter, and we've still got, 200 kids and 200 parents or more for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's the best that I
yeah.
So
All right,
My recommendation would be to keep it on the 30th.
I agree.
Just because that's what we've historically done and that's what they're used, that's what our banner says, so.
You don't wanna do it after.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's gonna, there's gonna be snow, there's gonna be snow.
It is
We
what
do
it is,
30th or we
I
do
mean, we
it
just have to make the eggs,
They have colorful eggs, so you can see them in the snow.
just don't buy white eggs,
Yeah.
get purple ones.
Yeah.
but have any new business? What a good brainstorming, more in January. Everybody have a great holiday.
Thank you, Merry Christmas.
Very Christmas.